Welcome along to continued coverage of GP Pittsburgh. What a pleasure it is to have your company for round number 8 of this tournament here. And, of course, win and in magic between Craig Wesco and Steve Rubin. These guys at 5-2, Reed. Whoever wins this is coming back tomorrow, and whoever doesn't, well, there are some pretty good side events they may want to get involved with instead tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, boy, imagine you're 5-2 to Grand Prix, about to play your win and in for day 2. You're a Pro Tour champion with 11 Grand Prix top 8s. And you play against someone with a comparable resume to you. It's quite a coincidence. Both these guys, Pro Tour champions, both 11 Grand Prix top 8s, looking for their 12th here in Grand Prix Pittsburgh. But super accomplished players. You know that they're both going to bring their A game for this one, and it should be a good matchup.
Steve Rubin hot off a top 8 only last week, actually, in Vegas. He was one of the top 8 players in the limited GP. And so obviously looking to double down on that performance and maybe run it back this weekend with white-blue control, a deck that I think we've all seen before. However, Craig Wesco, well, look at this. Surprise, surprise. My jaw has hit the floor, Reed, because Craig Wesco is playing small white creatures. Yeah,
green-white, call it green-white mid-range. This is a deck that I actually like a lot in Standard. You get the strengths of the green creature deck. Llanowar Elves, Jade Light Ranger, Thrashing Brontodon. Those are just bread-and-butter cards that you're really looking to draw and smooth out your turns in the early game. But then the big white stuff there's just a lot to like about it in this format, in a format where mono red is super popular, getting Lyra Dawnbringer in combination with other angels to actually get the +1/+1 and lifelink.
Yeah, like Shalai there, yeah.
All that said, this is probably not the matchup that Craig built the deck for. I'm sure he has game, and he's probably won this matchup as much as he's lost, but I would expect that this green-white deck is primarily built to prey on the red Chain Whirler decks.
So Craig Wesco finding a cast out where he can exile that Gideon of the Trials. We know Craig Wesco is a big fan of Gideon. His pinned tweet, Reed, is about how Gideon's quote-unquote flavor text on Gideon of the Trials is so powerful. Of course, the ability not being able to lose the game while you've got a Gideon in play. But look, that game recognizes game with Hashap Oasis going away to that Field of Ruin and cast out in response. And something rather telling about Craig Wesco's general preference for deck styles, he's playing with beta. Is it beta or maybe is it alpha planes there? No, that's a beta planes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And landbox unmatched forests.
Yeah, Craig probably doesn't own a basic land other than planes.
Yeah, I would say that he had to come here to the GP hall at 9 o'clock this morning and dig through the land station to find himself some forests. He's got those beautiful planes there ready to go, of course. Wesco, for those of you who may not be familiar with this man's work, he is a huge fan of white weenie decks. He generally likes to pair them with red, but hey, look, he's not above playing some basic forests.
Yeah, actually, his Pro Tour win happened to be with white-green beatdown. That was Return to Ravnica block. He had things like Loxodon Smiter and Voice of Resurgence.
Oh, yeah, that was Pro Tour Dragon's Maze.
Yep,
that's right, yep. Seal away now for Steve Rubin. Wesco's got some thinking to do. Going to pop the shirt off here. Get that cardigan out the way. Free up those arms. And a Blossoming Defense now is going to keep the Walking Ballista around. And this is an awkward position here for Rubin because this is now he's... Did he do that end of turn to prevent himself from taking it? Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, never mind. Something important to note, of course, when you're playing around cards like Blossoming Defense, you don't want to give your opponent the opportunity to do extra damage to you.
Sure, like if you had X-ray glasses and you knew that your opponent had a Blossoming Defense, you would just say, okay, I'll take my 2, and then afterwards play Seal away. Yeah,
I mean, that's the first thing I would do if I had a pair of X-ray glasses, I have to say. Sit to make sure they had a pair of, had a copy of Blossoming Defenses in hand. Certainly the best use for that kind of technology, I would say. Craig Wesco, I think a Sky Sovereign in hand. He's playing 2 in the main deck. Unable to cast it on just 4 mana, however. We may see if he can find another land here. Oh, no, it doesn't have it. That looks like a Servant of the Conduit. 4 copies of which is in his deck. What are your thoughts here? Is in addition to the Llanowar Elves, Wesco's pretty full into this ramp plan here.
Yeah, this is a pretty ancient archetype in constructed Magic, which is that you pair the green ramp creatures with fatties in green or whatever color you're pairing it with. So, I mean, we could go back to Pro Tour 1 and look at the, Urnum Geddon white-green Llanowar Elves decks, and this is the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild of that, green-white Shalai, but still using Llanowar Elves, Forests, and Plains to ramp out 4-drop creatures.
Yeah, I suppose if you're going to play that kind of top end, you just need to get there a little bit quicker than you normally would. We don't often see 8 mana dorks, but I have to say, I mean, Servant of the Conduit's a great pick. It's a great pick.
Yeah, the general idea, Riley, is that the power level of creatures scales disproportionately with each mana that you add to their mana cost. So rather than play, like a 2-mana 2/2 that doesn't do much and try to attack for some chip damage, the idea is really, okay, I'm going to win with my 4 and 5 drop creatures. So the best way that I can support that game plan is to play mana guys as my cheap plays instead of just creatures that are going to get outclassed very quickly.
Well, Teferi, the hero of Dominaria, is someone that outclasses a lot of other plays very quickly indeed. I cannot believe, Reed, honestly, mate, I cannot believe the impact this card has had on multiple constructed formats.
Yeah, this is the best thing to happen to control players since Sphinx's Revelation, in my estimations.
Insane. If you were told, okay, Jace the Mind Sculptor gets unbanned at the beginning of the year, okay? We all go nuts. We're like, this is the end of Modern, it's the end of the world, set the world on fire because that's the end of the world as we know it. And then within a few months, a 5-drop Planeswalker was printed that is now seeing play above Jace the Mind Sculptor. I cannot believe the world we live in.
Yeah, Teferi is certainly just outrageously powerful, but look at Craig Wesco with the creative solution. He chips in for 2 damage and then finishes it off with Sky Sovereign Console Flagship. Now, despite that being one of the best sequences the non-Teferi player can have, Steve Rubin's probably not even too disappointed with it. He got a
second one.
he got his card draw. He got to not take any damage that turn. And now he has another one. And if he can counter the creature that Craig is going to try to deploy to crew Sky Sovereign, then, hey, he gets to untap with Teferi.
I think one of the hidden strengths of Teferi, it's not particularly hidden, but something that isn't obvious on first glance. We look at Teferi and go, okay, it costs 5, right? It doesn't really, does it? It costs 3.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons we see it played in Modern, because a card like Liliana of the Veil, any Planeswalker that costs 3 or less, immediately it's eyes on that card for Modern because of its impact. And this is like Serra Avenger, right? It's a 5-drop you can only play on turn... it's a 3-drop you can only play on turn 5. And this is why I think we see it having such an impact, because it is effectively a lot cheaper than it looks.
Yeah. Now, the traditional... the challenge of a control deck is you have a lot of reactive cards. You have to hold up your mana. You have to line up the right answer against the right threat. You have to sort of pick your spots of when you're going to protect yourself and when you're going to take your opportunities to progress your own game plan with a Planeswalker or a card draw spell. That's the traditional tightrope that control players have to walk, and it's why it's so challenging to build and pilot a control deck. But Teferi breaks that mold because he lets you draw cards while also keeping your mana untapped. So it's just the dream for a control player. You don't have to make those tough decisions anymore. You get to do everything you want all at once.
Does it all. Slices and dices. 1,000 household uses here for Teferi, the hero of Dominaria. And right now an Essence Scatter enabled by that untapping of the lands here. And we're going to see a cast out now get rid of that. Excuse me. I was going to say I was going to go after the Sky Sovereign, but no, looks like Ruben wants his Gideon back. Oh,
a nice play by Ruben here. Gideon of the Trials, a perfect answer for Sky Sovereign because it preemptively neutralizes it before it can even attack. Whereas if you were going to answer with a Settle the Wreckage or a Seal Away, Craig Wesco would still get to 0.3 damage at one of Steve's Planeswalkers.
And that's very cool. Look at that little die there with the angry face on it, showing that old Sky Sovereign's been consigned at the docks, at least for this turn here, thanks to Gideon of the Trials. Rishka, the Pima Renegade, is going to come down, I think, just as a Centaur Corsair here. 3/3 for 3. Not doing a huge amount. But Wesco's got to get on the board because Ruben is just continuing to pull further and further ahead, and he's even got an answer here to the Rishka, it seems. Yeah, look at that. Hugely important card in my Magic career, that Centaur Corsair. One of the first times I realized that a 3/3 for 3 was actually a good card in Limited. Mm-hmm. That was the card that kind of my game leveled up on, thanks to the Limited Resources podcast. I thought of it has no text on it. It does nothing. It's very bad. But 3/3 for 3 in Limited, very good card. And, one of those level up moments that you remember when you start out.
Turns out one of the most important lines of text on a creature is its power and toughness in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, not so much the flavor text, huh? So Ruben now 2 active Planeswalkers for him. Facing down, well, a board that's not doing a whole lot, to be honest.
Yeah, this is sort of the death throes of Craig Wesco here. The game's going to continue for a long time, but this is the situation that Steve Rubin wanted to navigate to. And all he really has to do now is keep drawing cards, spending his mana, taking up the Fairy. Eventually he's going to get the Emblem, and then from there Craig can't win anymore, officially.
So back to the Planeswalker activation. Ruben having a hard time finding that 8. Gets there in the end, draws an extra card, and is going to untap some lands. Let's get this search for Azcanta at another card advantage engine for him here, Reed. And Ruben, as you mentioned, the game more or less locked up for him. Wesco has another go with the Rishkar here. Not going to do too much work for him, though, you would think. A little bit too late to the party.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Wesco strongly consider a concession over the next turn or two because, well, these players are fighting for day 2. They need a win if they want to play tomorrow. So running out of time is a bad outcome for both. And I think when Craig sees that there's no way he can win, he's going to want to save some time for the next 2 games.
That moment may be upon us here as we see Teferi, an emblem, will mean that every time that Ruben draws a card, he will exile one of Wesco's permanents.
Oh,
and
Steve even has the brutal combo of commit memory with Teferi Emblem if he wants to go that route.
So you can just exile essentially every permanent that Wesco has out, actually.
Well, the best 7 of them for starters, and then from there it's academic.
Yeah. So we'll see now. Excuse me, Irrigated Farmland's going to exile that Sky Sovereign. So if Ruben would have flashed back the memory, he wouldn't actually have enough targets for all of those 7 triggers. So Wesco has seen enough, and Steve Rubin with a convincing Game 1 win. Poor old Craig there, unable to find what he needed. Reed, you mentioned the fact that you think that this green-white deck is a little unfavored in this matchup against white-blue control. That's certainly how we saw things play out in game number 1. Did things change much post-board? Yeah,
Craig gets to take out some of his lower impact cards and turn to things like a Johnny Unyielding and Nissa Vital Force. Those are just great because they're non-creature cards that can combat Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate, which are the most powerful cards against a green-white creature deck. He can also perfect his answer cards depending on what he thinks Steve is going to be trying to win with. And he also has a really cool one in Prowling Serpopard. It's the 3-mana 4/3 that makes your creatures uncounterable. Very effective against blue counterspell decks.
Ruben certainly has a lot of counterspells. I wonder what his post-board positioning is going to look like. Maybe some extra removal, extra Wrath effects. I can see he's got at least a Fumigate to bring in.
Yeah. So Steve should be figuring that his main advantage in this matchup comes from Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate, the cards that can really punish a board of a large number of creatures. And if he would like, he can turn to Lyra Dawnbringer, though you can expect Craig to be prepared for that in some way, probably keeping Cast out in his deck, maybe having some other answers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Steve Rubin really needs to change much. He just needs to be prepared for those creatures. Teferi remains excellent. So just some small adjustments here and there, and he should be all set.
One thing I want to talk to you about, Reed, here is, I mean, perhaps not necessarily in this matchup, but more broadly speaking, the 3 copies of Baral, the Chief of Compliance in Steve Rubin's board. This is not a card we see very often. I mean, it's recently been banned in Brawl due to its oppressive nature there, but it hasn't made much of a splash in Standard. What's going on?
It's a sleeper card. It's a really strong card. My team, the Pantheon, practiced a lot for the Pro Tour, and most of us wound up playing a red Chain Whirler deck, but those of us that did play Control, Baral was a card we were pretty excited about. Andrew Cuneo with blue-black control, sideboarding Baral. It's very strong in control mirrors, particularly when you can rightly expect your opponent to take out most or all of their cheap removal. It can give you a big long-term advantage in terms of double spelling with the mana reduction and just looting, perfecting your hand whenever you fight a counterspell battle.
Well, that was my question. What are you playing it for? Are you playing it for the fact that it makes your Glimmer of Genius cost 3, or are you playing it for the fact that it makes your disallows so much better, or is it a combination of the two?
All of the above. It's almost like having a mini Planeswalker on your side of the battlefield, where it just gives you all of these subtle different advantages as the game goes on, and it's going to sit there on the battlefield, not really going to expect your opponent to have a fatal push or a lightning strike to get rid of it. So I guess you just invest a little bit early, and then it pays dividends later as the game goes along.
They bought out all that cheap early removal, and so if they're going to deal with the 2-drop 1/3, they're going to have to devote like 4 mana and a cast out or something to it. So you're trading up there. Okay, cool. All right, we just haven't seen this card being played a whole lot in Standard. Looks like these players consulting their opening grips. Ruben, is he happy with that 7? Looks like Mulligan on the side of Craig Wesco here.
Mm-hmm. Craig's played this type of matchup more than almost anybody else on the planet. He knows that he's looking for a good start, and he's going to be able to identify very quickly the hands that have a chance of winning and the ones that don't.
Earlier on in the day, Reed, we were talking about the fact that certain players like to sort of latch onto certain styles of deck. You're a big fan of grindy mid-range decks that have game against the entire field, and Craig Wesco is certainly very well known for his deck style here. Loves to play those small white creatures, and as you say, that's worth something coming into a matchup like this. Which angle of attack is going to reap the most rewards. That's
right, and in particular, Craig is known for beating decks that most people can't beat with White Weenie. I mean, a basic white creature deck you think of as being kind of one-dimensional and really struggling against a deck like Steve Rubin has brought with Fumigate and Settle the Wreckage, but Craig knows how to navigate these challenging matchups and find every little edge and put his opponent to tough tests. And if anybody's going to win from his side, from the green-white side, it's going to be Craig.
Let's see what his next move is here. Thrashing Brontodon's a nice start for him. An efficiently costed card that threatens to blow up something like a cast out or a seal away. I like that as a nice early threat here. And a Shalai to follow it up. We'll see what Ruben's response is.
Yeah, Riley, one of the subtle dynamics that I want to talk about for this matchup is I've over and over again mentioned Settle the Wreckage is a big problem for a green-white creature deck. You don't have any counterspells, you don't have any discard. All you can really do is attack with your creatures every turn. So you're going to be really, devastated by a card like Settle the Wreckage. But Shalai giving you hexproof actually means that your opponent can't cast Settle the Wreckage if it's on the battlefield. So that's one way to put your opponent in a tough spot. Make sure that their answers don't line up against your threats. Shalai has a lot of subtlety about her that makes her quite powerful.
Yeah, super, super weird kind of little interaction there because, of course, Settle the Wreckage targets the opponent, right? It exiles all of the creatures that they are attacking with, and Shalai protects you from that. So I think that was one of the reasons that we see Shalai deployed pre-combat. Obviously, in this situation, Ruben didn't have the 4 mana required, but still, that's something that's really important for people to keep in mind. You can't always rely on blowing up their board with a Settle if a Shalai's in play. Second Thrashy B now for Craig Wesco and Ruben. Looks like he's got something to say about this. It's going to be a cast out. So this cast out, probably not very long for the world, but it is at least going to do exactly what it says on the tin and remove a Thrashing Brontodon. Wesco's happy to let it happen. All right.
Yeah, and this is actually pretty good for Craig because he does lose a Brontodon, but it might be temporary. And what this means is that if Steve ever has to point a different removal spell at the other Brontodon, Craig can just, do the little 3-card Monty and swap them, kill the cast out, put the other one back into play. So it does leave Craig in an advantageous situation. At least on that one front, though he's got his work cut out for him against Lyra Dawnbringer here.
And you can see there Wesco with a great 5-drop, especially when an opponent is tapped out in the form of Nissa Vital Force, but not great, Reed, when you're facing down a 5-power flyer.
No, it's really the perfect answer. It has first strike, so it trumps the forest. If Craig wanted to attack, it can attack back against the Planeswalker, and there's no hope of Craig trying to race it if if he's trading blows.
This is a tough spot for Wesco here because he is really going to be hard-pressed to answer this Lyra. I mean, he has Lyras of his own. That's maybe the best way for him to do it, as we see him use the Vital Force to untap a Forest and then play another Llanowar Elves. But, I mean, Ruben is just... He's in a really good position right now, thanks to that combination of stats and abilities on Lyra Dawnbringer. Old Baneslayer making another appearance here, Reed.
Yes, she is.
Getting this down to 1. And Ruben, threat on the board, cards in hand, mana untapped. He is living the control player's dream, my friend. Servant of the Conduit off the top here for Wesco. Walking Ballista in hand as well. Ruben, 3 cards in hand for him. Wesco's got to be pretty worried. It's not looking good for him.
No, he's got a hard enough time just beating what Steve Rubin has on the battlefield, let alone the potentially dangerous grip of cards that the control player is holding. He needs a lot to go right to get back into this game.
Looks like a Walking Ballista maybe on the cards here for Wesco. Walking Ballista for 3 here. No, okay. So you think about it. So using the Llanowar Elves there to power out that Walking Ballista after having untapped the Forest.
Yeah.
So the Ballista comes in with 3.
Good sequencing from Craig in case his opponent had a sensor or something like that.
And now an attack as well. Okay, getting aggressive. I like to see this. Very, very difficult card to race is Lyra Dawnbringer. And Ruben now with a copy of Seal Away. So Thrashing Brontodon gets taken out. Of course, those disenchants do affect on the Brontodon do cost 1 mana, which Wesco's unable to pay. And Ruben down to 14. You would think this Vital Force won't be around for very much longer here, Reed. Away she goes.
Yeah, so there goes Craig's, probably his 2 most potent permanents in the Nissa and the Thrashing Brontodon, and still Steve Rubin has all his cards in his hand, all his mana untapped, and a 5/5 lifelink flyer.
Steve Rubin sitting pretty here after having won game 1 as well, looking pretty good for him for game number 2, although of course it's not over till it's over. We'll see what Wesco has to say about it as we see him send in the Clowns once again. Ugh, better sell the wreckage. Should seal the deal here for Steve Rubin. This Walking Ballista can still get him for 3. But I mean, what can Wesco do? What sequence of cards gets him out of this?
Yeah, I wonder if he should have just tried to sit there pumping the Ballista until he could kill Rubin's Angel. It's a bad plan, but at least it's a plan. I don't know what he can really do. It needs to start with finding an answer to that Lyra.
So Wesco needs to find something like a Cast Out here. Or a Lyra of his own. Just bounce off each other there. Well, not quite. They'd take each other down. Once again, flavor violation. But hey, wouldn't be the first one we've seen this weekend. Here is Servant of the Conduit. Did you get a look at what was in Wesco's hand there?
Might be a Blossoming Defense.
Well, at least 1 card hanging out.
Woefully ineffective against Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, target myself. Doesn't quite work. So, Field of Ruin. Activated now for Ruben. Both players go a-hunting. Find some basics. And this board, well, pretty woefully unbalanced in the favour of Steve Rubin once again. Lyra Dawnbringer is just, what a house. What a card.
Yeah, a real one-woman show here. Steve doesn't really need to cast any more spells if Craig can't answer this Angel.
Cycling away in Irrigated Farmland is Ruben. Still got 3 cards in hand. Gets in for 5. And the thrashings commence for Craig Wesco. He's down to 15. Ruben up to 22. It is a Blossoming Defense, and now a Sun Petal Grove off the top for Wesco. Poking away with his little servant there. But the Dawnbringer continues to winnow away Wesco's life total. He's down to 10. Ruben down to 23. And, oh my goodness, poor old Wesco is just flooding out ferociously as well. He's got one draw step, Reed, and I tell you what, it better be a bloody good one for him here. Off the top. Double blossoming defense is an extension of the hand. Craig Wesco goes down and will not be making an appearance in day number 2, unfortunately for fans of the White Mage. But Steve Rubin at 6-2 just scrapes in, Reed.
Yeah, we'll be seeing him tomorrow, and if he can make a good run, he might put up a 12th Grand Prix top 8.
Yeah, a couple of things are going to have to come together for him. Of course, he's right down the bottom of those tiebreakers, but with little luck on his side, hey, we could be seeing him in another GP top 8. We're going to switch over to the back tables now. We got George Nace here with white-black cycling. Looks like there might be a splash of blue in there as well. And we got Corey Burkhardt with a much more traditional black-red mid-range. Not the first time we've seen the man with the hair. Burkhardt has already shown his expertise in the feature match area, although he lost a really intense game against Oliver Chu.
Yeah, they played that epic match earlier today, and Oliver wound up winning after a commit memory reset the game. But Corey fought back, 5-2 now, and he looks to be in good shape to even up the score here against George Nace.
Yeah, I would say so. Look at this. Active Planeswalkers, Dargan's getting in as well, and Nace, without too much to say about things, Scrap Heap Scrounger getting busy too. Well, Nace has quite a few cards in hand, so see what Burkhardt's approach to this is. Dragon inbound. And once again, settle the wreckage on Path to Exile mode, Reed. I know you're not a fan of the card Path to Exile. And I imagine even less so when it costs 4, huh?
I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but I have to respect its power. Settle the Wreckage is doing amazing things in Standard here.
Doomfall reveals double Lyra for George Nace, and one of them's going to hit the Exile Zone. The other one could get slammed into play here. I mean, is this the start of a comeback here for Nace? There's no clear answer. Okay, never mind. Well, Burkhardt's looking for it. Finds a Hazoret off the top. And a Glorybringer as well.
Yeah, so we might see Corey combine Glorybringer with a Chandra Minus to take care of Lyra.
Let's have a look now. Glorybringer inbound here for Corey Burkhardt. The Dargan is online. And yep, just like you said there, Reed, we're going to see Lyra Dawnbringer chipped away. Exertion, so 8 total damage marked on the 5/5, and away it goes.
And Baneslayer Angel, it is not, Riley, because that one had protection from dragons.
Oh, mate, there you go. Lyra Dawnbringer, get out of here. Protection from demons and dragons. Wouldn't have worked in the face of the Glorybringer there, yeah. Oh, sorry, the Glorybringer wouldn't have worked in the face of the Baneslayer there. George Nace makes a couple of quick calculations on the old TI-84 just there. He's kicking it high school style.
Oh, I love the card that George just drew. Not particularly effective here, but Vile Manifestation it's the closest thing to Tarmogoyf you're going to find in Standard.
Oh yeah, this is the card that's power and toughness are linked to how many cycling cards are in your graveyard.
Yeah, that's right. So we're probably looking at about a 6/4 just from a quick glance at what we can see in George's graveyard.
Well, doesn't matter. They all die the same to Vraska's Contempt here. Burkhardt continues to buffer his life total. Nace does some quick calculations. Once again, counting up the damage there. He's got his old Texas Instrument to help him with that one. Haven't seen one of them for a long time. No. Since I dropped Mats in year 10. Wow. Couldn't quite get the hang of trigonometry, I have to say. And looks like George Nace can't get the hang of winning this game. And we are going to go to game number 3 between George Nace on white-black cycling and Corey Burkhardt on black-red mid-range. Have to say, from when we sort of dropped in on this match, Reed, it really didn't look like Burkhardt was in any trouble at all.
No, apparently he lost game 1, and that's scary to see this cycling deck having won a quick game 1 off camera. We really don't know what it's capable of. Super fast hollow ones, super fast Vile Manifestations. Now, this is a cycling deck, but it's not the blue-white control cycling deck with Drakehaven that you might be used to. This is more of like a beatdown deck featuring those creatures that I just mentioned, the Vile Manifestation, which can get out of hand really quickly if it goes unanswered.
A card that's really impressed me in those Drakehaven lists was the Abandoned Sarcophagus. Now, they didn't play too many copies of the card. It was a little clunky in multiples and that sort of thing. But this deck is way more all in on that cycling plan, and 4 copies of Abandoned Sarcophagus. I mean, just playing creatures out of the yard every turn seems pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's really good when your threats are Vile Manifestation and Hollow One. Both of those can be rebought. George has some cool utility cycling cards. 4 copies of Jeru's Renunciation, which can tap 2 blockers. You know, you're almost always going to be starting out by cycling it for 1 mana, but if that's an effect you can just look down and find in your graveyard to cast for free, that's going to come up.
Remember, in the olden days when we had Blue-White Delver in Standard, some people would play just the techie Feeling of Dread for the mirror, tap down the blockers, you know, get in there. Just as like the kind of 5th and 6th Vapor snags there. I don't know how good it was. It was a sweet card, though. So these players finishing up their sideboarding now for game number 3. Difficult position for Corey Burkhardt, of course, who wouldn't have. I don't think he would have come in with a clear sideboard plan against white-black cycling. What are some of the cards that he might be looking at to make a difference in this matchup?
Geez, well, I mean, Corey probably knows better than we do because he saw how George won in game 1. So having, you know, just a little bit of experience, a little bit of feel for what the cycling deck can do might inform his sideboard plans. But I'm inclined to say, okay, anything that does 4 damage to a creature is going to be good. Chandra, Glorybringer, Cut Ribbons, because those can kill either Hollow One or Vile Manifestation. A Braid is going to stay in against Hollow One and an Abandoned Sarcophagus. So, but yeah, it's the classic. I mean, you could make a case for almost any card in Corey's sideboard coming in, but it's that classic dilemma of a aggro mid-range deck where you need to keep the pressure on while having answers to what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. You can't just, we see this more traditionally with combo decks, the ones that can't sort of dilute their main game 1 game plan with an overloading of sideboard cards. But, I mean, it rings true for aggro as well. You can't take too many cards out, otherwise you risk just running out of action.
Mm-hmm. Certainly true.
Well, let's see what's up here in game number 3, the deciding game between George Nace and Corey Burkhardt here live from Grand Prix Pittsburgh. What a pleasure it is to have your company, my friends. You're in the booth with me. My name's Riley Knight, joined, of course, by the number 1 player in the world. It is Reed Duke. It's been great to have your company throughout the weekend so far. We're looking for that to continue. And tomorrow, of course, we've got day 2 coming your way here from Pennsylvania. And we hope you'll join us then as well. We'll be back 9 a.m. local time. And we hope we can count on your company as we continue to see what this standard format has in store for us. George Nace now doesn't have a whole lot going on the battlefield. His hands full of action, however. Let's see a couple of Lyra Dawnbringers. We're going to see a Tarmogoyf played here, Reed?
Yeah, we very, very well might. It's only a 1/4 now, but that's good enough to block Scrap Heap Scrounger, and it's going to grow a lot bigger very quickly.
What doesn't grow dies, and what does feeds the Vile Manifestation, huh? Doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
No.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it. And Nace has the Jeru's Renunciation as well. Wow, look at that little +1/+0 action here.
Yeah. But still a profitable sequence for Corey here. He effectively trades the Scrounger for the Vile Manifestation while adding Goblin Chain Warlord to the battlefield.
Again, we see Cheney Dubs getting it done. That 1 damage here and there and everywhere is just too much for this standard format to handle. See what Nace's next move is. Fetid pulls tapped. And he's got to say go. He's got a Lyra Dawnbringer next turn, and that could be something that really turns the game in his favor. And we're going to see a Seal Away. Goblin Chain Whirler takes to the seas and sails right away. See what Burkhardt's follow-up play is at 4 mana. Of course, you know it's going to be a good one, and Chandra Torture Defiance, certainly that. One of your favorite cards in Standard, Reed.
Yeah, this is a great spot for Corey. Even though George is going to certainly play something powerful on 5 mana, Corey has a great chance of untapping with a Chandra, which can either see him additional cards or produce extra mana, depending on what he has access to. And, you know, you got to hope if you're a fan of Corey Burkhardt that he can piece together some way to kill or double team against a Lyra Dawnbringer. And if he can, then the advantage is his. He's got a Planeswalker on the battlefield.
Nace's hand is just not very well set up to fight a Chandra right now. I mean, he needs an answer, and doesn't have something like a Vraska's Contempt, doesn't have a cast out. That Lyra Dawnbringer, I mean, yeah, she's a house. We've talked about this. Obviously, a lot worse than Baneslayer Angel, because, Glorybringer can put Mark 4 damage on it. Let's not make any mistakes there, but I mean, as you mentioned, Chandra, untapping with an active Chandra is just, I think it's going to put Corey Burkhart in the driver's seat here. Well, let's see what his next move is. If he's got a removal spell for this Angel, I mean, we can start to pack up our toys and head home. Nace does have a Vile Manifestation in hand. A couple of other cards as well. See what Burkhart's going to get up to. Let's exile the top card of the library. It's in a Braid. Not great in this spot. What's the play, Rich?
Well, if he can't kill the Lyra, then that's getting exiled to deal 2 damage.
Nace down to 15. And here's Pianala. So look at this. Mum coming along, show some support for her daughter. And Argul's Bloodfast, completely unrelated to the other cards on the battlefield from a flavor perspective.
So second to actually killing the Lyra, this is the best thing Corey could do, because he produces an incidental blocker that can protect Chandra. One alternative Corey had is he could have plus the Chandra for mana and then drawn a card with Argul's Bloodfast. And, you see one more card either way, but you actually get to bank it in your hand if it's something like a Braid.
See what Nace's next move is. As you can see, Hollow 1, Vile Manifestation. Looks like a Fatal Push in hand as well. That's good against that Thopter. Yeah, and we're going to see him take it out. That's an aggressive deployment of it, but I like it. He's got to pressure the Chandra.
Yeah, and by putting Chandra below 3 loyalty, it reduces the number of combinations that Corey can come up with to kill the Lyra. So this means that a Burn Spell or a Glorybringer can't do it, because Chandra can't -3 anymore.
So a lot of pressure put on the Torch of Defiance, and also Nace very tightly buffering his life total. Both players at 20 here. We've got a real game on our hands.
Final game of the day for both players. Final game of the tournament for one of them.
Ether Hub now for Corey Burkhart. Snags himself an energy counter. We'll see what he wants to do with his turn. I think a land in hand, another mystery card there. You can rip a couple with that Argul's Bloodfast. Nice to be on 20 in a situation where you've got a Bloodfast active. Let's check in with the top of the library, says Burkhart. Finds a Glorybringer. Is that going to be good enough?
Yeah, so if I'm Corey, at this point I'm not happy about it, but I'm just going to let my Chandra go. I'm going to cast the Glorybringer, attack, exert to kill the Vile Manifestation. And then at least I've got the Bloodfast, I've got a high life total, and I have plenty of time to draw into something like a Vraska's Contempt to answer the Angel. As long as you can keep it to just one deadly threat on the opponent's side of the battlefield, then there's a lot that can happen for you to win the game. But if you let things spiral out of control too much, it becomes harder.
Right, and Corey can kind of draw 2 cards off of the Argul's Bloodfast for free, right? Like, it doesn't change the clock for him to draw 2 extra cards, because he's taking 5 a turn.
Yes.
So the Glorybringer takes down the Vile Manifestation, as you said there, Reed. And back to Nace now. He's going to cycle away a Hollow 1. Get a bit of a rebuy on the 4/4, looking for a more impactful card, and it's a Fatal Push instead.
We're also in a spot where that Glorybringer, though it's exerted for a turn, is going to be a major threat in the long run, because now Corey can spend a turn digging for something, and if he's able to untap with the Glorybringer, then that's all that many more potential pairings to deal 5 damage and kill the Lyra. So even though it got exerted, it still represents a big threat that George Nace is going to want to answer if he can.
So Burkhart takes a draw with the Argul's Bloodfast. Nace does a bit of quick calculation.
And I already see a Goblin Chain Whirler in Corey's hand, which can pair with the Glorybringer next turn to deal with the Angel, assuming George can't produce anything relevant to change the board state.
Pianala. George Nace hits the numbers once again. Beep boop. Yep. Down to 17. I love this. I'd love to see more calculators being used as life pads. I'm really enjoying this this little bit of texture to this game. I've never seen it before. What's your life total count of preference? You still using the pen and paper?
Pen and paper,
Grandpa? Yeah?
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All right. That's a fair enough point. You're not etching it into a piece of papyrus?
Mm-mm.
No? You're not using cuneiform on wet clay?
Only if I needed to take some secret notes that I don't want my opponent to read.
Oh, yeah. That's the tech, isn't it? That's the tech. Ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform to make sure that no one can understand. It's like Leonardo da Vinci used to write backwards.
Is that right?
Yeah. He could write. He could write. To hide his notes, he would write. He could write with his left and his right hand, and he would write in sort of mirror writing, which he could also read. That guy was very smart. He's a very smart dude.
I believe it.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if he'd be a good Magic player.
Probably, man. So now Gloriabringer is going to put 4 damage on the Lyra Dawnbringer. A puzzling play, one might think. But wait, there's more. Corey Burkhart says, for my next trick. Goblin Chainwhirler going to put that final point of damage on the Lyra. And just like you said, Reed, Burkhart has used an unusual combination of cards to find an answer for the 5/5.
Yeah, but the dynamic here is he's had a Planeswalker in play for a few turns. He's got the Argyll's Bloodfast, so he's so far ahead on resources that he can afford to make a play like that using a combination of... I mean, he actually didn't even spend any cards to do that. It's 2 abilities of permanents that are otherwise very strong. So Corey, killing Lyra the hard way, but just pulling further and further ahead as he does it.
He's got like 10 cards in hand. How has that happened? Well, I know how it's happened, obviously. It's Argos Bloodfast, but... that's insane. We've seen... I mean, Burkhart was on 20. He played the Argos Bloodfast. He's taken a point of damage here or there and everywhere, but he's still just so far ahead on 9 now with the full grip. Nace just doesn't have anything much going on. Argos Bloodfast has really put in some work this weekend so far, Reed.
It's a really powerful card when the games go like this, when your deck is chock full of answer cards and you have the luxury of a couple turns to draw a few extras. That can make the difference in a game.
Remember Erebos in Mono Black Devotion?
I do.
Man, that card was just anathema to any control deck that it was facing down, but I'm loving Argos Bloodfast just against the field.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Burkhart down to 7, but he ain't mind. Even though Nace is on 21, Burkhart has this one very, very firmly in his grip. Got some nice attacks to make with Pina Lara and the Scrap Heap Scrounger. And here's a blast from the past.
Yeah, Argyll's Bloodfast, reminiscent of Greed on the front side, Diamond Valley on the back side. So throwback to some old favorites.
A lot of the flip enchantments, old callbacks to, and some of the flip artifacts as well, right? We had a Lotus Veil on the back side of one of those cards.
Dousing Dagger.
That's
yeah,
right.
all of the Ixalan double-faced cards transform into lands that are throwbacks to something old.
My favorite, of course, being Legion's Landing, the throwback to the what was it? The
Keldoran Outpost.
Keldoran Outpost. That's right. Yeah. So we've got double Dargon now for Corey Burkhart. These Dragons really getting it done. George Nace, 2 cards in hand, all dressed up, nowhere to go. What's he up to here? Oh, no. Abandoned Sarcophagus, however, that opens up. That's just like basically Yawgmoth's Will right now,
yeah,
right?
That's the best card he could have hoped for, because he needed several cards in order to come back, and this is the one thing in his deck that lets him play several relevant cards all at once.
Yeah, all those Jeru's, what is it, Jeru's Renunciations in the bin?
Hey, I mean, it's not a powerful card, but when he gets to play with his whole graveyard, that might just be what he needs to buy time to claw back into the game.
So here is the Abandoned Sarcophagus. And essentially what that means is Nace now draws a bunch of cards out of his yard. I mean, that's putting it in sort of very simplistic terms, but all of these cycling cards, you can see Burkhart is highlighting them for our viewing pleasure. All of those can be cast. They're effectively in his hand. So what do we got? We got a Faith of the Devoted. Oh, sorry, excuse me. We got Renewed Faith. We got double Jeru's Renunciation. We got a couple of hollow ones as well, which can come out for free.
They can, yeah.
Oh, boy. Nace is doing some quick maths here. Good thing he's got his calculator with him. Val Manifestation. Obviously isn't going to cast the double Jera's renunciation here. Oh, no, he can play the isolated chapel and still get there. I guess the Vile Manifestation, a little bit of a non-bow with the fact that you're exiling the cycling cards from your bin there, Reed.
Yeah, that's true, but he'll be all right.
So Burkhart brings back another Scrap Heap Scrounger there. Scrappy number 2.
So at 12 life, let's assume the Glory Bringers are going to get tapped. Corey has 8 points of ground attackers, a removal spell in hand. If he can piece together 4 more damage from somewhere, like Pia Nalar's pumping ability, he can close it out here. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 10 mana. So he looks like he's 1 damage short with just the cards that we know about here.
Chandra Torch of Defiance now for Corey Burkhart. Looks like that one's going to resolve. 4 damage to the Vile Manifestation. Away it goes. And Nace now going to have to really find something special out of the bin. Looks like first up we're going to have Jera's Renunciation. Tapping 2 creatures. Attacking now for 8. And as you mentioned there,
make it 11.
Make it 11 thanks to the activation of PNLR. George Nace down to 1. Big rips off the top. What can you find, Mr. Nace? Not looking good.
Has he got enough Chroma's Vengeance in there?
Oh, we can but dream. We can but look to the stars and dream, Red Duke, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen today. It's a cloudy night. And Nace going through the motions. Bit of a tippy tap on the card. But I don't see a way out of it here for him. He's fought bravely into the bitter end, but this could be the end of the road for this cycling deck here. Looks like he's going to crash out as part of the peloton. Let's see. He's certainly taking his time about it. Going to cast a nope. Thinking about this Vile Manifestation. Ultimately, it is going to come into play here. But it looks like this cyclist is heading straight for a big old crash.
So he's... Unless he drew... No, he can't have drawn Settle the Wreckage because he would have needed Settle the Wreckage plus the Renewed Faith from his graveyard. So here it seems like his plan is to tap the 2 Glory Bringers again, cast Renewed Faith.
So Nace has to respond to this ability.
Yes, he does.
He has to respond to that before the card is seen. He has to gain life. Otherwise, Burkhart can just exile the card straight away. So Nace priced into responding here.
But if his plays are Renewed Faith and Jera's Renunciation to tap the Glory Bringers, he'll be at 5 life, up to 7, down to 5 from the 2 damage from Chandra, and then no matter what he blocks, 5 damage will get through. That's not even to factor in both of Pia Nalar's activated abilities.
So there's Renewed Faith, going to buffer the life total there for George Nace. And Mountain, as you mentioned there, Reed, dings Nace back down to 5. Ether Hub, the play for Burkhart, up to 2 energy. Vraska's Contempt in hand as well for Burkhart. And he's looking at another day 2 finish here, if he can just put the finishing touches on this one, which looks overwhelmingly likely. Jera's Renunciation tapping down the 2 Glory Bringers.
Burkhart about to shatter the screen on that calculator on the other side.
Looks like it. And George Nace, he is pedaling furiously. But this cycling deck has just not come together, and he's going to have a stick stuck in his spokes in the form of Corey Burkhart. Vraska's Contempt to get rid of the only blocker that Nace has, and that should do it, I would imagine. Nace on 5, taking a huge whack of damage here, Reed. And it might be time to power down the TI-84. Not going to get to block. Away goes the VAR manifestation. Corey Burkhardt up to 9, and George Nace facing down Lethal. He's milking it for all he's worth, my friends. Going to cycle that cast out and find as stone cold nothing. So that is the end of the road there for George Nace, unfortunately for him. But Corey Burkhardt breathes a sigh of relief, Reed, as he finds his way into another GP Day 2. He's going to be happy with that performance. Got a bit tight there at the end, but ultimately cool heads prevailed. Yeah,
that was dicey. Lost the first game, if you'll recall that match, playing against a deck that surely he had never seen before or practiced against, but he, like you said, he kept his cool and he navigated well, and now he's on to day 2.
So that is just about that, my friends. We are going to wrap things up here from Pittsburgh right here and right now. It's been a pleasure to bring you live coverage of this standard tournament so far. And as I mentioned, we are going to do it all again tomorrow, except so much better. I hope you're going to join us. The stream kicks off at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. sharp local time. Check your guides for details, but we will see you here once again from the home of Magic, twitch.tv. It has been a pleasure to hang out with you, Reed. I'm looking forward to doing it all again tomorrow. On behalf of the coverage team, however, this is Riley Knight on this Saturday evening saying good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow for day number 2.